In 1991, a team of civilian divers chanced upon a baffling discovery: a submarine resting in a place it shouldn't have been. What they unearthed over the following years would reshape history and spark unsettling new inquiries. Because when they finally penetrated the interior, what the salvage divers found inside the sunken Nazi Germany submarine would leave you astounded. This is the true tale of U-869, and it starts with an enigma at the ocean's depths: the phantom sub of World War II. In the shadowy, turbulent waters of the Atlantic during the war, death could strike without notice or compassion from below. German U-boats glided beneath the surface like predators, silent and invisible, sinking thousands of Allied vessels with ruthless accuracy. These submarines were Hitler's instruments of dread at sea, severing critical supply lines and leaving trails of wreckage and oil. Of the numerous U-boats deployed by Nazi Germany during the conflict, most were destroyed, some were seized, and a handful vanished without a trace. Among the most perplexing was U-869. Launched in 1943, U-869 was a Type IXC/40 U-boat, one of the largest long-range submarines constructed by the Kriegsmarine. Nearly 250 feet in length and fitted with 6 torpedo tubes, it was built to cross the Atlantic and attack enemy ships deep in Allied territory. Its purpose: disrupt, demolish, vanish. Commanded by Captain Helmut Neuerberg, a veteran naval officer, U-869 embarked on its first combat patrol in late 1944 as the war's momentum shifted against Germany. The original plan, per wartime records, was to navigate toward Gibraltar, a vital choke point where Allied ships converged en route to the Mediterranean. But by then, disarray plagued the German command structure. Miscommunications, contradictory directives, and a crumbling hierarchy. It's thought that U-869's mission might have been altered mid-journey. On February 11, 1945, a U.S. destroyer and a Coast Guard cutter reported engaging and sinking an unidentified German U-boat near Gibraltar. The official account logged it as a verified kill. Based on timing and estimated U-boat movements, the Allies deduced that the submarine destroyed that day was U-869. With the Kriegsmarine in disarray, no counterclaim emerged, and the narrative solidified. U-869 was presumed sunk off Gibraltar, claiming all 56 crew members in a watery tomb. No survivors, no distress signals, no evidence. For decades, this account went unchallenged. A single entry in the vast, blood-stained chronicle of World War II, another enemy sub that never returned. Yet, a closer look reveals fissures in the story. First, no confirmed photographs or sonar scans of a wreck near Gibraltar matched U-869's profile. Wartime reports were often unreliable, relying on visual sightings amid chaotic battles or assumptions made under duress. The Atlantic was immense, the technology rudimentary, and errors were frequent. Second, no German records from the period definitively pinpointed U-869's final location. By 1945, Germany's war effort was collapsing. Radio messages were lost, logs were incomplete or destroyed. Surviving documents were vague. Some scholars now suspect U-869 may never have reached the Strait of Gibraltar. And there was another eerie detail: radio silence. German U-boats were required to check in during missions to report progress and receive updates. U-869's last transmission came while it was still in the North Atlantic, thousands of miles from its alleged demise. After that, nothing, as if the sea had consumed it entirely. The deeper historians and researchers probed, the more questions arose. Was the submarine misidentified in the Gibraltar skirmish? Was it redirected without documentation? Or was something stranger at work? For over 4 decades, U-869 remained an unsolved riddle, a ghost ship lost to time, entombed in conflicting reports and fading recollections. The crew's families had no graves to visit, No wreckage to grieve over, just a name carved on a memorial and a wartime file that didn't add up. Even experts clashed. Military historians clung to the Gibraltar attack, insisting the case was closed, while divers, wreck hunters, and amateur investigators harbored doubts. Decades later, something peculiar appeared on sonar off the coast of New Jersey. Salvage divers rushed to investigate, and what they discovered would leave you speechless. The North Atlantic off New Jersey is a steel graveyard, where hundreds of wrecks, victims of storms, collisions, and wars, lie beneath the waves. For local divers, it's both a playground and a conundrum. In the summer of 1991, a group of seasoned wreck divers stumbled upon something unprecedented. John Chatterton, Richie Kohler, and a tight-knit team of Northeast divers were scouring for unidentified wrecks using side-scan sonar. The waters were treacherous, strong currents, poor visibility, deep dives. These were not leisurely descents but high-stakes technical diving requiring meticulous planning, precision, and iron resolve. About 60 miles off Point Pleasant, New Jersey, at a depth of 230 feet, their sonar revealed a long, narrow, torpedo-shaped object on the seabed man-made, ancient, and out of place. Curiosity morphed into fixation when they made their first dive. Visibility was abysmal, barely a few feet. The cold pierced their suits. The structure was half buried in sand, snarled in decades of fishing nets. A few sweeps confirmed it. This was a submarine, a large one, and it had no business being there. No hull numbers, no markings, no nameplate, no flags, nothing to identify it. The wreck was heavily damaged, its conning tower partially caved in, its outer hull fractured, rusting into oblivion. Was it American? Soviet? German? No one knew. The divers dubbed it Yoo-Hoo, a puzzle that defied reason. No World War II-era submarine was recorded as lost near this site. Yet there it lay, undisturbed for nearly half a century. The team launched a series of grueling expeditions. These weren't simple dives. They demanded trimix gas blends, careful decompression stops, and exhaustive preparation. The risks were immense. Nitrogen narcosis, oxygen toxicity, or the bends could strike. But each dive yielded new clues. Inside, they found German gauges marked in metric units, pipes, valves, and instruments, clearly a Kriegsmarine U-boat, but which one? They recovered small artifacts, plates, bowls, equipment fragments, some bearing the Kriegsmarine eagle, but nothing conclusive. The breakthrough came with a tarnished butter knife, engraved with the name Horenberg. Not a model number, a person's name. This shifted everything. Using naval records and crew rosters, the divers linked the name to George Horenberg, a crewman listed on U-869. The divers pressed on, both underwater and in archives. On a later dive, they retrieved valve manifolds and diesel engine parts with serial numbers, traced to Deskamag AG Weser, the German shipyard that built U-869. The pieces aligned. Against staggering odds, these civilian divers had identified the mystery wreck. In 1997, 6 years after the initial dive, the U.S. Navy officially recognized the wreck off New Jersey as U-869. The revelation was monumental. U-869 hadn't been sunk near Gibraltar, as military records had claimed since 1945. It had perished 3,000 miles away, off America's east coast. The divers had achieved what no wartime document could. They had located and verified the wreck, uncovering the truth. Then came the sobering realization. No one had been searching for U-869 here. Without a handful of relentless divers, it would still be decaying in obscurity, its story untold. The U.S. Navy and historians took heed, and wreck divers worldwide hailed it as one of the greatest underwater identifications ever, accomplished without institutional backing. Just a crew of determined civilians and countless perilous hours on the ocean floor. But the enigma wasn't fully resolved. The pressing question lingered. How did U-869 end up here? Its mission targeted Gibraltar, wartime reports placed it in Europe, so why was it on the wrong side of the Atlantic? Was it rerouted? Did it receive clandestine orders? Or did a communication failure send it astray? No records survive to clarify. The Kriegsmarine logs were incomplete, and every man aboard U-869 had perished with the sub. A grave was found, history seemed corrected, but the true mystery of U-869 was only beginning. When salvage divers confirmed the wreck off New Jersey was unmistakably the German U-boat U-869, a fresh mystery emerged. What caused its demise? The question appeared straightforward, but as divers scoured the wreck and researchers revisited history, the answers grew murkier. Competing theories surfaced, each supported by evidence yet riddled with gaps, keeping the truth elusive. The two most prominent explanations, still fiercely debated, are that U-869 was destroyed by its own torpedo or sunk in battle by U.S. warships. The first theory posits that U-869 fell victim to its own weapon. German torpedoes in World War II were formidable but flawed, prone to a terrifying malfunction known as a circle runner. A torpedo meant to travel straight could, due to a defective gyroscope or control surface, arc back toward the submarine that launched it, resulting in a self-inflicted strike. This was no rare occurrence. It happened multiple times during the war, a risk every U-boat captain dreaded. Advocates of this theory argue U-869 fired a torpedo, perhaps in combat or a test, that veered off course and struck its own hull before the crew could respond. Evidence includes the absence of records showing U-869 attacked an enemy vessel and the wreck's internal blast damage, consistent with a torpedo detonating close to or against the hull. Yet, this theory isn't foolproof. The second theory claims U-869 was sunk by two U.S. Navy ships, the USS Howard D. and USS Coiner. On February 11, 1945, these vessels reportedly detected a submarine, possibly via sonar or hydrophones, and launched a depth-charge assault. Post-war, this attack was credited with sinking an unidentified U-boat, later assumed to be U-869. The Navy's records long upheld this, even after the wreck's discovery off New Jersey. But this explanation raises doubts. First, U-869 wasn't expected near the U.S. coast. Its orders were for Gibraltar. Why wasn't it linked to the attack sooner? Second, the wreck's location doesn't precisely match the coordinates reported by the Navy ships. It's close, but not exact. Third, divers found several torpedo tubes on the wreck still sealed. If U-869 was in combat, why hadn't it launched its weapons? As divers spent more time exploring the wreck, the clues grew contradictory. The forward section showed severe damage, crushed inward, twisted by force, suggesting an internal explosion, possibly a torpedo detonating in its tube or just after launch. Yet, some external hull sections bore deformation patterns consistent with depth-charge pressure waves, though less severe than expected from a direct hit. Notably, the control room and torpedo room remained relatively intact, with localized damage, pointing to a contained internal blast. The crew's skeletal remains, scattered over time, showed no signs of an attempt to reach escape hatches or surface. An abrupt, violent end with no warning. Adding to the puzzle, wartime records are inconsistent. U-869 was thought to be far from the U.S. coast, and the submarine sunk by the Navy might not have been U-869. Perhaps the USS Howard D. and USS Coiner sank another U-boat, or U-869 was already lost to a faulty torpedo. There's also the tantalizing possibility that U-869 was on a covert mission, its rerouted orders unlogged, explaining its unexpected location and radio silence. As evidence piled up, the answer grew less certain. The sealed torpedo tubes deepened the tragedy. Did U-869 travel thousands of miles only to perish without firing a shot? Just when the mystery seemed unsolvable, divers accessed a sealed compartment in late 2024, using advanced gear and meticulous planning. This section, collapsed and corroded, had likely been untouched since U-869 sank in 1945. Inside, they found a perfectly preserved time capsule. Personal lockers, sealed crates, and footlockers, some with intact rubber seals. Among the relics were standard U-boat items, ration tins, clothing, logbooks, but also extraordinary finds. A ceremonial dagger etched with an elite naval motto, a Kriegsmarine dress uniform with an iron eagle and swastika armband, and a box of Nazi memorabilia, including a pristine swastika flag, propaganda leaflets in English, and a partially encrypted codebook marked with Abwehr intelligence insignia. The discovery was so sensitive it was kept under wraps, hinting that U-869 might have been tasked with deploying operatives or materials on U.S. soil. This unverified theory suggests a chilling German operation near the war's end, potentially rewriting history. One final twist: Herbert Gerschke, a crewman slated for U-869 but sidelined by illness before its departure. His replacement sailed in his stead, and for decades, Herbert believed U-869 sank near Gibraltar. In the 1990s, divers contacted him, revealing the wreck's true location off New Jersey. Presented with artifacts, including a knife engraved with a crewmate's name, Herbert confirmed details, his subdued grief validating their findings. He passed away in 2005, unaware of the sealed chamber's secrets, or perhaps choosing silence. What do you make of it?